Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I've listened to Trevor Lane in regards to Russell Westbrook to Charlotte, and essentially what he was breaking down for us is how um, the situation would be if we were to acquire Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward in exchange for Russell Westbrook. How much that would be in regards to salary in the future. Basically, $100 million worth of salary over the next several years if we were to acquire both of those players. Um, I don't think that's a deal. That's not a deal at all. See, the object of the game in regards to getting rid of Russell Westbrook is not only to get a better basketball fit, but to acquire pieces that are going to help diversify your books in such a way that allows you to be more flexible. That situation potentially makes us less flexible depending on how those players play. Terry Rozier, I'm not really worried about at all. He's an excellent player. You give him a big role, he's going to play big. He's already proven that. He's great on both sides of the floor. I don't think we've seen the best from Terry Rozier yet, to be honest with you. And I think it's a good time to acquire him. So I'm not worried about him. Gordon Hayward, I love his game, but his body's been beaten up by injuries over the years, and it's just understood that he's not going to play up to that level with that contract. So essentially, the value is in Terry Rozier. That's too much salary to be taking back for the promise of a good Terry Rozier and whatever it is that Gordon Hayward's going to bring to you at this stage in his career. That is a bad trade. I'd rather have Russell Westbrook for one single season and then get the salary $47 million off of the books at the end of the season, honestly, than to take back contracts for multiple years on players who may not live up to that, who don't necessarily make me good enough to win a championship if they're not at their absolute best. We already have injury issues. We already have um, cap issues. So the last thing we need is to be acquiring players that could potentially make us even less flexible. Terry Rozier can potentially have trade value after acquiring him. I think you could very easily trade him again. I can totally, like I said, see him playing well here. But that is a risk. That is a risk that I would not be willing to take. I truly see the value in just freeing up cap space. We're the Lakers. You know what I mean? And we're in a situation where, because we don't have picks and we don't have all that we need, the more I think about it, the less I'm just willing to just part with that expiring contract. If it doesn't make sense for us and what we need, don't do it. Simply don't do it. What I'm saying to you guys is that I believe we will be able to do it. We will be able to get rid of that contract for something that we should be happy with because of the needs of different teams that are starting to appear right now. As we've already talked about, different teams that can move around. By the way, I said something earlier I want to get right. I do not think at all that DeAndre Ayton is a better fit in Brooklyn than Bradley Beal. I said that earlier because I was just trying to figure out how players can shuffle around. I wasn't considering the fit itself. I don't think it's a horrible dream of putting those players together, Ben Simmons, KD, and Ayton, but it's not a better fit necessarily than Ben Simmons, Beal, and Ayton in my head. So I don't want nobody walking away hearing me say that and then say, yo, this guy's an idiot. No, I was just mistaken in my mind. There were some errors there in regards to how I was seeing the roster as I was saying that. So that's what I wanted to get back and amend. Usually I don't amend my mistakes, but that one was so egregious that I wanted to get that right. Anyway, so back to what we were talking about. Yeah, the Lakers. We should not look to take on any old contract just for the sake of getting rid of Russell Westbrook. I do look at him as a very bad fit for what we have already, and I do look at him as somebody who's going to make it so that we just automatically suck next year based on the needs of what our team's building process is. And so, obviously it's a punting situation if you keep him. It's just a bad fit. We saw that last year. 360 isn't it. Period. Okay? So, I'm not saying that we are looking for that to be the case. What I'm saying is I'm not parting with Russell Westbrook's contract with the assumption that it doesn't have value. That's what I'm saying to you guys. I don't think the Lakers organization should let any trade partners define that value, because that is exactly what I would try to do if I were on the other side of this thing negotiating against the Lakers. What I would try to do is define the terms of the circumstance based on the notion that Westbrook's contract is in fact just the player Westbrook who happens to be a bad fit for you, not necessarily the ability to free up $47 million of cap space at the end of this season. I'm going to play it so that, I'm going to try to see how well you understand what it is that you have, is essentially what I'm saying. So play it as if you understand what it is you have. And I think that's what the Lakers have been doing, which is why I've been very encouraged by the posturing of the news that has come out about the Lakers preparing to keep Russell Westbrook. Having Darvin Ham make it so that it was a point for him to have a plan in place for Russell Westbrook and assume he's going to be on a team. I think all of this is good for us for this reason. Because there are scenarios where they're going to try to fleece us for this thing or act like we don't know what the heck we have. We know what we have. And at the end of the day, Russell Westbrook is a player who, we think he's struggling in this era of his career. Maybe he's not necessarily going to be the guy that we want him to be for our team. But we'd be damned if we take back a bunch of trash that we're going to have even harder times getting rid of. Players that are going to make us even worse of a team than he would necessarily as a fit in some cases, depending on the availability of their health. A salary that we're going to have kick our butts over time, just like the situation we have with our picks that's going to kick our butts over time. I mean, at least with Russell Westbrook, we know, poof, he's off the books. And once you have that $47 million worth of cap space, then you can take on things that can bring you picks. Now I could take on a bad salary if you give me a first rounder or two. That's how you do it. As to which I'll be happy to take on your Gordon Hayward if you're giving me your first round picks over the next couple of years. But you don't have that leverage if you don't have that cap space, and you take on Gordon Hayward now just to get rid of a contract that's going to expire at the end of the year. So to the fans, that may make sense. Like, oh, we get Gordon Hayward. He used to be a star. Ooh. Oh, and Terry Rowe, we know how good he is. Ooh. It's like, yeah, if it were that simple, of course, bring him on. But no, if you look at what it is, you bring those guys on, then that means the rest of your team is not going to be any good. You bring those guys on now, you're going to have trouble over the next several years after Braun's gone, and they're still going to be sitting here on bad contracts. Remember Mozgov? Remember, Luol Deng? Yeah, that's the type of situation you're looking at. Something like that could be down the pipeline with Gordon Hayward. You don't want to sign up for that. You don't have that problem with Westbrook. You don't have that problem with Westbrook. You don't have to do anything. All you got to do is suit him up this year. And, hell, if he plays too bad, just sit him. You shut him down halfway through the season. You look up, time passes, you don't win the championship, we know that. Boom, he's off the books. $47 million free. And we can do all the stuff we want to do. Trade for the first pick in the draft if we take on somebody's bad salary. We can do all kinds of weird stuff once you have that free cap space. So, Jeannie understands that. Rob understands that. And I think those who negotiate with the Lakers need to understand that the Lakers understand that. So that's the moral of my story right here. So, yeah, I think the Lakers are going to definitely do everything they can to build a sound basketball club for this upcoming season. Now, whether or not they're going to mortgage the future to do so is a whole nother story, because we may end up finding ourselves on the hook for $100 million anyway. But it's not going to be to bring players like Gordon Hayward to the ball club. It's going to be to bring players like Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving to the ball club. So, yeah, I don't think it's out of the question that Jeannie would be on the hook for that kind of money. It's just about who she's going to bring in that regard. So that Charlotte deal is out. If you ask me, that Charlotte deal is out. Sorry, Mike. Unless you're parting with first round picks in this deal, that's not happening. Simple as that. I'm not doing that. In order to get rid of Gordon Hayward and to acquire the 1 year of Russell Westbrook, you're going to have to incentivize that more so than giving me yet another bad contract, potentially, in Terry Rozier. That is not going to work, Mike. Mitch, that is not going to get it done, sir. You know the Lakers are in a bad situation. Come on, man. Give us some picks, bro. This is Mitch Kupchak we talking to. You are our very own guy. Please, We're in a bad spot. If you're gonna do a thing like that, do not put us in a further hole over the next several years. We'll be stuck. We'll be bad, man. You're gonna have us running around with more Robert Carey. What was his name? Ryan Kelly's and players like that we had when you were our GM. Come on, man. Don't do us like that, Mitch. Give us some picks if you're gonna do that. So that's my thing with Mitch in that situation. So yeah, I think the Indiana deal probably looks a little better to Laker fans. I think we'd be getting more guaranteed quality talent from Indy to most people's mindset. A guy like Miles Turner is somebody the Lakers like a lot. I have to see how he's moving right now. You know, that would be my thing with Miles Turner. I like him as a player. I know he's coming off an injury. He looked great out there at the beginning of last season, but the injury he went down with at his age, you have to wonder what level he's going to play at with the league shooting the ball the way it is, and with players of his caliber having to sit, as to which it wasn't necessary for them to sit 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Now, as I said in previous videos, it's a little different for bigger guys. So, you know, I take that into account even for players that we last seen at a high level. If they've gotten hurt since, might be something to think about. So I don't know. I kind of want to see him before I bring him in at this point. But, you know, a deal like Malcolm Brogdon's deal, he's had injury issues as well. I got to look at his contract. But see, that's the thing. It's like now we got to revisit these deals because the Charlotte deal looked good to me too, you know, until it was broken down by Trevor Lane. So I'm like, okay, well, the salary implications, if they're not going to put us completely over the top, if it ain't going to be a game-changing player, I'm not necessarily up for it. You know, I look at Kyrie as somebody who fits seamlessly with Bron, championship proven between the two of them already. AD's already won a championship with Bron. That's proven. See, I can bank on that. If I'm gonna take on $100 million worth of salary, I see championships amongst those guys in their past with synergy and the promise of them being able to play with one another today. Fine with that. Bradley Beal, that's somebody who I think is a seamless fit with LeBron James. Somebody I can count on to put up a lot of points, no matter what. Contract situation, a little funny. His injury issues also to be considered. But the level of the player that he's been and the fit that he appears to be, I could take on that $400 million worth of salary. Zach LaVine, similar situation. He could score a bunch of points, account for 30, 40, 50 points on a great night in a high-powered offense with LeBron James. Fast breaks all night long. It's an incredible type of fit for this situation. Maybe you don't mind taking on his salary, et cetera, but there's a level to that. You know, there are limits to that. Like Terry Rozier, I don't know if that's the level there based on the situation. So, you know, it's just up to the Lakers and how they gauge these players and the fit and how it ultimately breaks down to what it is they want to do with Darvin Ham. So, I kind of want to see the Lakers swindle their way into getting some young talent that may be in their second or third year. Guys that are on teams that may have looked like they might be bust, but, you know, may have some promise on the wing. Those are the type of players I want us to target because it's so, you know, such a scarcity, as we said earlier, with wings. So maybe you can try to find a guy that doesn't necessarily have as much upside anymore based on the circumstances of his situation, but can very easily come to you and overachieve. Sort of like we were able to pick up Wenyen Gabriel and see him play well. Stanley Johnson, same thing. Malik Monk in the same vein. So I'd like the Lakers to continue to scout out in that area. I think that'll be a good thing for us. But overall, yeah, Russell Westbrook, man, I'm poised for either situation to occur. But I understand if he's on this team next year, we're going to be really bad, man. Now, if he is on the team next year, since it is an expiring contract, the sooner it gets closer to the end of the season, the more value that expiring nature holds. Meaning, we're not going to have any trouble trading that thing at the deadline at all. So just because he's a Laker at the start of the season and we're not so good does not mean we can't trade him for a plethora of players and immediately turn ourselves into something different. Think Boston and how they traded for Daniel Tyson made moves to make themselves better, a lot better at the halfway point. The Lakers are able to do that with Russell Westbrook's contract, assuming teams, start to form an understanding of what it is they want to be and don't want to be for the upcoming season. So yeah, see that too. If they start the season with Westbrook, you best believe he's going to be out of here at the deadline. 130% certain of that. 130%. So that's why I'm kind of chilling, man. I'm kind of chilling because I see the vision and I see the circumstances in front of the Lakers, and I understand that people are going to try to continue to fleece them for that contract, which we've already predicted. We know that's coming. So it's good to see the Lakers look like they're prepared for that. Good. It's good to see that they look as if they have that aspect under control. So that's what I see there. No funny trades, please. No bad contract situations. If we're going to take on huge salary over the next several years, make it a huge, talented, seamless fit for what we already have. And let's go forth. Lakers forever. BDF44, thank you all for watching. I'm out.